Today on the channel, back from San Diego Comic-Con, and we're talking all things G.I. Joe.
And the spirit of Ultimate Warrior will run forever!
Welcome everyone, Kyle here, and welcome back to the channel for another San Diego Comic-Con news video, a little recap action from my time at San Diego Comic-Con. My voice is a little bit hoarse. I went about 40 hours without sleep. Got a little bit of that Comic-Con crud, I guess, maybe a little sickness there, but no rest for the wicked. A little cold, that's not going to keep me down. I don't mess around. You guys know how that goes. But today's video, we're going to recap a lot of G.I. Joe stuff, of course, primarily Hasbro, with a little bit mixed in here later on at the back half of the video here. Of course, you know I love the Joe brand right there. I'm a longtime Joe fan since I was a very, very little kid. So a lot of exciting stuff shown by the Joe team. And of course, I did go to the booth multiple times as I kept putting new figures out. We'll talk about that in this video. I also went to the panel from the Hasbro team. So we'll talk about that. We'll talk about the exclusive as well. So let's just dive into the news here. Let's talk all things G.I. Joe San Diego Comic-Con. First thing to talk about, Chuckles box set. Yes, Chuckles was there. He was the exclusive for San Diego Comic-Con. They had QR code readers. You would grab those, you would scan it, you'd be off to the races. You get Chuckles delivered in the fall, I think is what it sounds like. We'll see what happens. A lot of people having that Chuckles anxiety. I do expect that to go on Hasbro Pulse later on as well, so stay tuned for that. Got to give a shout out to Travis Moody, good friend Travis Moody. Finally got to meet him in person. He actually grabbed an extra QR code for me, saved me the time of hunting and tracking all that down, so I really do appreciate it, as time is money in San Diego Comic-Con. There were so many exclusives I was after, so much time waiting in line. That is the thing, man. If you don't like lines, you don't like people, San Diego Comic-Con is not going to be for you, but I waited in so many lines, and anytime you could get, I guess, an advantage, I'll call it an advantage, Travis helped me out, so special shout out to him. Being a good brother out there, so very happy to get Chuckles done. Now, let's talk, I guess, the Joe panel. Next year, they definitely need a bigger room. So, if you're not familiar with San Diego Comic-Con, and I wasn't familiar till this year, but a lot of the panels have, obviously, panels all day long. So, people get to these panels much earlier, and they sit there because they know they want to be at the panel 2 panels from now. They want to get a spot. They want to get a good seat. Well, there was a panel, and I don't even know what it was. I apologize. It was 2 ladies talking about something comic books, and I would say 90% of the room was G.I. Joe fans that could care less about what they were talking about. So I felt bad for those ladies a little bit. But once their panel got done, I want to say 5 people left. So there was a line out the door, down the hallway of people that couldn't even get into the G.I. Joe panel because nobody left. So that absolutely sucks. So many people probably came to San Diego Comic-Con. I came for the Joe panel and maybe something else, or maybe just Joe panel. They ended up not getting into the panel. Man, I would have been heartbroken because that was one of the big things I wanted to see at San Diego Comic-Con. So I was happy we got there early. Once again, old Travis Moody, Jeremy Conrad, we'll talk about him in the videos later on. Some of these experts out there really help direct some of my traffic. And man, if you've never been, you need an expert helping you direct some traffic there. So I was very happy to get into the Joe panel. I think, I'm sure it'll happen, but next year, they need a much bigger room, a much larger room. The Joe brand is taking off. It's like my dreams are all coming true here. They're taking off. They need more space. They need more room for their panel. I do expect to see that next year there. So we'll look forward to that in 2024, San Diego Comic-Con. Now we're going to take a look. The first thing they announced at that panel there was some pipeline stuff. So of course, they did the introduction, all that kind of stuff. Said, hey, I'm Lenny, I'm on this, you know, that whole stuff. We don't need to go over that. But they did announce some things that are coming in the future, no images, things like that. They did announce some things. They said no images, these are coming, but then later on they showed these ones. But they did say, hey, here's what's coming. Retro line Duke, retro line Scarlet. Now, we remember Duke Scarlet from Series 1 of the Classified. I would say missed the mark from the majority of what they wanted out of Duke and Scarlet. Now they're going to go back. They're going to give us the retro ones in the Walmart carded retro style. Sounds like these might be traditional retail everywhere or Pulse. We'll wait and see on that. But they did also say these are going to be much thicker cards than the past ones. And that's been my biggest gripe on this retro line. And it's why I've said I'm not going to collect these mint on card. It's just almost impossible. I'm not going to go through the fight. These two are coming on traditional retro style carding, but a thick card style. I think that's going to make a lot of people very, very happy about that one. After they talked about those retro figures, they talked about Jinx. So we're going to make like an amoeba and split. Oh, deep cut, deep cut. But Jinx is coming. Of course, Jinx, a female figure in the line, a very popular female from the G.I. Joe movie and, of course, toy lines over the years. A lot of people are going to be happy to get a Jinx figure in their collection, myself included. I'm here for that. Then they announced Torch. Yes, a Dreadnought Torch. Always loved Torch. He's always been a favorite of mine. And when I look at Torch, it reminds me of my grandpa. My grandpa actually bought me the Torch figure when I was a little kid, my grandpa and grandma. And my grandpa was a welder, and he always looked a lot like Torch, so especially back then. So very wild. I can't wait to get any and all Dreadnoughts. Dreadnought's one of my favorite sub-teams in the G.I. Joe landscape. Torch is coming in the future. No pictures of Torch. But then they transitioned to first images of some things, and we got to see a little peek under the tent of stuff that maybe will be out towards the end of the year, maybe early 2024. But the Python Patrol Mania rides on as we do get a Copperhead, of course, a very easy repaint, but he was a member of the Python Patrol, so we're going to get him in his Python Patrol colors. Definitely a different look than the regular green version, so we do have him coming. And then a Python Patrol officer. Once again, you're building out the ranks. You got all those kind of guys, so we're going to get him there as well. Here for that. It is cool. I love the sub-team. Python Patrol is probably my favorite Cobra sub-team. I'd have to do the math on that, but right up there at the top of the list. Then we do get Shockwave coming back. Now, Shockwave was an all-time favorite Joe of mine. Kind of a little later addition to the Joe team, maybe, I guess you could say. Not early like Flint and the Stalkers of the world, but a very cool one. Always loved the SWAT team member. Just thought it was a really cool figure. Always loved him and Beachhead both. I'm sure there's some comparisons to be made on those guys a little bit. Love the striking blue color. Got the big riot shield with him. I think that is a nice touch. That is one I'm very, very excited for. Can't wait to get Shockwave in the collection. And then Helix is coming. Now, Helix, I've heard the name, but I don't know anything about the character. A lot of cool weapons with her. I got to think she might be a bit of a peg warmer as far as peg warmers go in the Joe brand, because a lot of people have not heard of Helix. But we're building out the ranks. We're building out the worlds. Much like Shooter, that's another bit of a deep cut there. We're getting her from Walmart. Helix coming to the line. So you got to pepper in some females from time to time. I'm just not sure if the world's ready for Helix quite yet. But a good-looking figure. We'll see what happens with that one. And then one that got some applause from the crowd was General Hawk. Of course, General Hawk, another all-timer out there. Always loved General Hawk. Plenty of weapons with him. Got that iconic bomber jacket going on. Removable helmet. A little bit of gray in the hair there. One of the senior Joe members. And General Hawk was always a favorite of mine as well. Very happy to have him. A lot of people thought he was going to be a part of course, the Dragonfly that did not come to fruition, which I didn't think it would either. He's too big of a name to put in there. So that is cool that we're going to get General Hawk in the traditional line. Then business really picked up. We talked about Torch. We talked about the Dreadnoughts. Oh, man. Well, we got Buzzer and Ripper coming to the line. Of course, those are the holy three little team members there. We'll get Torch, I guess, later on. But we're getting Ripper. We're getting Buzzer. Very, very cool. Very, very iconic from back in the day. Very iconic still to this day. Very happy to finally have them in the Joe Classified line. Very excited for all the Dreadnoughts, as I said earlier. And then they did officially announce one of those secrets that's kind of been out there. We've talked about it on the channel for a while. They officially announced and showed the packaging. They showed the figures. It is the Crimson Baroness and Xamot and Tomax in their red-inspired gear. Very simple repaints. Perfect for a Hasbro Pulse exclusive this fall. Deluxe packaging goes kind of hand in hand with the Chuckles figure. I don't know. It's cool for what it is. To me, it's a perfect exclusive because I think a lot of people, I already got a Baroness. I got a Xamot and Tomax. I got their more classic versions. I don't need this. I feel it is a good exclusive for those reasons. Doesn't set my world on fire. Of course, I'm going to buy it, but definitely interesting. Of course, we got all those Crimson Guard different characters over the last couple of 6 months or whatever. We got the Walmart exclusive, Alley Viper one. You're going to build out that sub-team if you need to on your shelf. So you're going to have all kinds of different sub-teams in this G.I. Joe universe. But very cool packaging design, very cool figures as well. A lot of reuse, as you can imagine. Baroness got a couple extra heads. That's going to be very key there to make her feel even more different than the black version, of course. But I'm here for that. I love the gold stands One question I tried to ask the Hasbro team and I forgot, and then there was such a long line I never got around to asking the question, but I was going to ask them about stands. Hey, what do we got to do to get those stands? We see them with this set right here. We see them with the retro figures. Can we get these with all the classified figures? If not, can we buy a 10-pack, a 20-pack, a 5-pack, whatever it may be, off of Hasbro Pulse? Could they do that? Because I think it would be great for the G.I. Joe line if everybody had uniform stands, you know? I think that would be a very, very cool thing, and I think they're leaving money on the table. I think that's an easy layup for them. So we'll see. Hopefully one of these days I'll get that question asked to them, but that one is coming. They did announce Tripwire, a deluxe figure in the, like the Snow Serpent or Snow Job, some of these more deluxe figures, Croc, Master, Snake Eyes, you know. We are getting Tripwire. Tripwire is a funny one. One of the first people to die in my childhood playing days. There was always a certain group of Joes. All of my battles and wars always started off the same. There'd be a Joe sub-team doing something. Cobra would attack them. They would kill every member of that Joe team that was out there. Tripwire, Psych Out, Sneak Peek, some of those guys, they were always fodder. But then they'd have one major player in there, like a Roadblock or somebody that would just survive, maybe battle damage, something like that. He'd get back to the Joe team, relay the message, and then the battle was on. And that's how my playing usually went when I was a little kid, when I'd set up my wars and stuff. So very cool to get Tripwire for nostalgic purposes there. But this is a cool deluxe one. It's almost a 2-in-1 figure. You can get a more classic look out of him, and you get a more modern look depending how much gear you want to put on him. I love the rat that he comes with. You guys know I'm a sucker for any time a Joe comes with an animal. He's coming with a rat of all things. Really hits close to home. As you know, my daughter recently on the channel we talked about, she was buying 2 rats. So very interesting here. He's got a rat as a pet there. Kind of helps him look for bombs and things. These rats are very, very smart. I can't believe how smart some of these rats are. So very interesting. I love this. It's just a cool little thing there. So very cool to see Tripwire. Tripwire did go up already for pre-order on Hasbro Pulse. So go over there if you're looking for Tripwire. But they announced a few other things there, as we did see a vehicle going to traditional retail. Now we've had the Ram cycles, the coil cycles. Well, now we're getting a real deal vehicle. That tells you the power of this new G.I. Joe brand. Just absolutely amazing. We are getting Clutch, and we are getting the Vamp. A lot of people call it a Jeep, whatever you want to call it, but it is technically the Vamp. It is going to traditional retail. No sign of when, no sign of a price point yet. It really does seem Target is being more open to box sets than ever before. We've seen a lot of wrestling box sets as of late, so we might see a lot more of this kind of stuff. And I gotta think this is gonna sell. I don't think it'll have tons and tons made of this. It'll be a little bit, maybe a smaller run. We'll see what happens. But a lot of people are going to want a vehicle for their Joes. They did say it fits 2 Joes in the front seat very comfortably. Should be very cool. This really opens the door. Can we get an Awe Striker? Can we get the Water Moccasin for Copperhead? I mean, sky could be the limit. I would be here for a couple of Joe vehicles a year, maybe twice a year, 3 times a year, 4 times a year. We'll see what happens there, but very, very cool turning of events, because the Joe team and the Cobras too, they're iconic, but a lot of times their vehicles are just as iconic. So a lot of excitement for Joe collectors. A little bit of a, oh boy, what are we going to do if they really start this vehicle thing? Where do you put all this stuff? Where do you put these vehicles? But it is still very cool. There's no doubt about it. And then they did announce this earlier as kind of a, here's a list, and then they said, we're going to surprise you, here it is. And it is the Techno Viper and SMS. Now the SMS is one of those kind of, I guess it's a vehicle kind of. It's one of those things, is the Joes and Cobras had a lot of releases of kind of accessory vehicle packs. And this was one of them. And this is one of those ones that's kind of been rumored for a while, is you can tow this behind your HISS tank. They were quick to say, you don't have to have the HISS tank. You can still buy this even if you don't have the HISS tank. But obviously a lot of people are going to use the HISS tank to tow this thing. Big old missiles on this. Of course, Techno Viper, get the most out of your molds there. We've seen looks of him in the past, but very cool one to go along with your HISS tank there. So I think a lot of people would be happy about that. We also saw Steel Corps 2-pack. Now, this was going on sale on Hasbro Pulse the Monday after San Diego Comic-Con, a little 2-pack of Steel Corps, remember? We saw them in a lot of the glamour shots of the Dragonfly, so now we're finally getting those. Once again, Army Builders. You don't get a lot of Joe Team Army Builders, so it is kind of cool to get that there, the Steel Brigade going on. Little 2-pack action, so head to Hasbro Pulse for that if you're interested to it. I was at the Hasbro breakfast. They invited us to a breakfast on, I think it was Thursday morning, off side of San Diego Comic-Con, there was a breakfast, and we got to see some reveals, check out some stuff, talk with the design teams, talk with them. I was there. I did play around with the Hiss tank with Lenny and Emily. Very cool. They said, hey, take it. Do whatever you want. Play around with it. And I did post videos on YouTube of that, pictures on social media things. Hiss tank, man, it's a game changer. It is truly a game changer. Definitely feels really nice in hand. I can tell you from firsthand experience from those videos. So very, very cool there. But they did debut at this breakfast, and we saw it, of course, at San Diego Comic-Con, was the Hiss Fire team. They debuted that 3-pack there. Once again, building out your Legion around your Hiss tank. They're very simple repaints with these. That's the name of the game, but very cool army builder pack. I could see people buying multiples of this pack as well. So a very, very cool one, that Hiss Fire team, up for pre-order right now, coming later this year. So stay tuned for that. And then, of course, I talked about the Hiss, but also the Dragonfly was there. Everybody could see the Dragonfly in the San Diego Comic-Con booth. Man, oh man, looks very, very cool. It's funny is, doesn't look as big as I imagined. And a lot of times, things like the Cat Slayer, and we'll talk about that in different videos, it is just awe-inspiring seeing that Cat Slayer in person. It is way bigger than I ever imagined it would be. It's just absolutely crazy. And it's a once-in-a-lifetime thing. Well, the Dragonfly, very similar, once-in-a-lifetime thing. Don't get me wrong, still massively a big thing, but not as big as I was thinking. But it is definitely, you know, it's big. It's going to take up some real estate in your collection. It did look really, really cool. I was hoping they'd have some of the other characters that are part of that, the Crazy Legs and stuff. They don't have those already worked through, so we'll have to wait till 2024 for some of that kind of stuff. But it was cool to see the Dragonfly in person. There's no doubt about that one there. We also got to see a lot of different figures in the case. Some stuff we've known about, some stuff that was brand new. So we did see Big Ben. We saw him, of course, Night Force Big Ben. He is going to be a part of Walmart Collector Con, or he already was. He'll be a Walmart exclusive. A childhood favorite of mine as well as Big Ben, so it's cool to see him in person. We got to see the Range Viper in person. Always a very cool one. Part of that Hiss Fire tank team, but then the more traditional one, part of the Walmart exclusive line. Get a little brain showing through. Always love that figure. Back in the day, love it now. Saw Shooter. We mentioned her earlier. Saw Shooter in all of her shooting glory out there. We saw Snow Job, the deluxe Snow Job. He was there on site. Got to see him up close and personal. One I was very excited for, and I was talking to one member of the Hasbro team, one of the people that was part of that panel, and they 100% agreed with me and my thoughts about Flint being the true leader of G.I. Joe. We also saw Hasbro in their promotion of 100 years of Hasbro. They did show a picture, and it was a nice little frame. They gave everybody one, and it was a poster, and who was representing G.I. Joe? Well, of course, it was my man Flint. He was representing, Hasbro says, who do we need to represent the G.I. Joe brand? It's not Duke, it's Flint. It's not Flint, it's not. So there, it was all Flint. It was all about Flint at the end of the day, so that was really cool. But they did announce and show Tiger Force Flint. Oh, baby, I'm excited for that one. Tiger Force Flint, I probably played with more than the regular Flint. I played with both, but I always love that Tiger Force Flint. Very happy to get this. Of course, a very simple repaint, as we do know. He does got the black around his eyes, like he's ready to take on the Predator or something. Who knows with that one there, but I'm very excited for Flint. The face of the Joe brand at this point in time is good old Flint there, so happy to see Flint return to the line. We also I talked to Lenny and Emily, talked about the Eco Warriors. You guys remember Cesspool, the Septic Tank, kind of a Hiss tank, and of course Flint, once again, putting on the leader cap, the leader of the Eco Warriors. They're talking about that. They are talking about those in the future, so I wouldn't be shocked to see Flint in that line down the line as well, so it'd be very cool. And of course, Cesspool. They even said Headman has been a discussion point, so if you remember the Headman arc of the G.I. Joe Deke series back in the day, you might remember that one there. So very cool to see those, or talk about those with the Joe team. Firefly was there in all of his Firefly glory. Of course, the second Firefly we've received in the classified line, and a very iconic looking Firefly as well. Tunnel Rat, another great one. Low Light was there. The Mole Rat, a very cool army builder, a Walmart exclusive, looked really cool in hands. Very zombie-like, I guess we'd say. We did see the Snow Serpent. Sounds like Snow Serpent might be here sooner rather than later. We also saw the Trouble Bubble on display as well. So a lot of cool stuff we've been talking about on the channel for the last few months. Finally cool to see him in person right there at San Diego Comic-Con. I was very happy to see that. Saw female Cobra officers as well. Didn't want to forget that one there. And then after the G.I. Joe Classified series, there was some other G.I. Joe stuff going around. I did stroll over to the old Mezco booth, and I checked out some of those. Of course, Destro, we already unboxed on the channel. We knew Firefly was coming. We knew Storm Shadow and Snake Eyes were coming. But they did, I guess, I think this was the reveal, at least was to me, was Duke. We're getting a Mezco Duke figure. Out of the whole lineup, maybe my least favorite of the bunch. We'll see what happens. But Duke, definitely iconic as much as I still like Duke. I still got respect for Duke. Kinda some respect, but definitely have to have him in Mezco. I'm sure Flint will be in the future. I'm sure they're saving him. You got to go up and down. Can't have all main eventers all the time. You're gonna get Flint in the future there. So we'll see. And, of course, Super 7 showed off a lot of their stuff. They did have a Super 7 store, a little pop-up store away from San Diego Comic-Con. I, of course, went there. I did pick up this sweatshirt. Had to pick that one up. But they did show some of the upcoming Super 7 Ultimate G.I. Joe lines. We saw some renders. We saw some full-on painted prototypes. A lot of that kind of stuff. We saw the big Cobra ship there in reaction style. Shirts that say, I want to believe. Could we see a reaction backer, kind of a HasLab, whatever you want to call it, for that? You could mix that in with your 3 3/4 Joes in the future. That is a very big possibility there. But very cool to see the Super 7 stuff. I did buy both those exclusives of Destro and the Baroness. We will unbox those on the channel as well. Stay tuned. I ended up having to ship all my stuff home from Comic-Con. It was $300 in shipping. That's how expensive it was to ship everything home. We will unbox all that stuff on the channel here in the weeks to come, so stay tuned for that. But that was basically it. That was the G.I. Joe stuff. A lot of cool stuff was shown. A lot of cool stuff up for pre-order. Our wallets are screaming, but we're going to have a lot of fun here in the next year or so with the G.I. Joe brand. Very excited to see what comes in the future. But what were you most excited about? What were you very happy for from San Diego Comic-Con? Let me know in the comments down below. Of course, you made it this far. Don't forget to like the video. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Turn on the old notification bell, because we got videos every single day. And then some. Yes, you heard it here first. And then some. We got even more content for you on the Patreon channel, including early access to the videos, bonus content, and all that kind of fun stuff. And you can also support the channel as a Patreon member. You can support the channel over at ProWrestlingTees.com. Search Kyle Peterson. Don't forget social media. Sir Paul64 on Twitter, Instagram, _Kyle_Peterson. So for some G.I. Joe reveals, I'm Kyle. See you guys all real soon.